my wife and I have 5 children, and our youngest 2 are twins, and I was starting a new business, and I had no money. And it was this day where we couldn't buy diapers, and I had $27 in my bank account. But then I figured out some formulas of success in business, and then I started to implement those and saw fast success. So now, who are my books written to? Who I go out and serve? The people I'm passionate about, because I never want to feel like I did when we had $27 and we couldn't buy groceries.
I just got chills. Wow.
Yeah, so I'm now 5 to 10 years ahead of that, and so that's who I look back and help.
Welcome to the Who You Know Job Networking Show, where what you know is important, but who you know can make all the difference in your business, career, relationships, and life. We are here at Video Marketing World, and this episode is brought to you by Real News PR. Shout out, Sarah Crilly.
Shout out, your one-stop shop for all things professional studios. We make your podcast video content look great. You don't have to do any of the work. You just rock up and come to your show.
Absolutely, and I'm super excited about our guest today because he was up on the stage, dropping the mics, dropping the fire. We've got Chaz Wilson in the house, Mr. Impact himself.
Here he is.
Mr. Impact. That's my new moniker now.
Yeah. Well, I really want to talk about that because you were kind of planting the seed behind the scenes of a new book, a new project that you got going out called Impact.
Yeah, it's a book called Impact, Becoming a Person of Positive Influence. And it really stemmed from my mentor. We were giving him an award at our event, a Person of Influence award. And then he called me a few months later and he's like, hey, I want to write a book. And I was like, well, great. And he's like, no, I want to write it with you. And when your mentor calls and says you want to write a book, you just say yes. And
nice.
So we started down that path. Actually, we started it a couple years ago, and we did reverse. We started teaching the theories and thoughts that we had about how people make an impact, and then validated it, and now we're putting it into a book.
What are some of those theories? What are some of the things that people are doing to actually make an impact? Because I think people say that word. It's kind of a buzzword. I want to make an impact. I want to make an impact.
Yeah.
But they're not really doing anything. What are some of those things that people are doing? Yeah,
so let me actually take just a step back because you nailed it. They said, I want to make an impact. I want to do it. I started this business or this career because I want to help people. I want to make an impact. But then when you ask them, and everybody we interviewed, we said, well, how do you do that? It was like, I don't know. I'll just do more of what I'm doing. So we went back and we dissected, and I have some interviews that I'm doing with some of the most influential people, which is like, it's hard not to be like awestruck because they're so influential in the things that they're doing, the impact that they've made. And we started to understand there were some characteristics, some behaviors, some characteristics of people. What's fascinating is when we broke all of them down, I'm kind of a nerd with this personal development stuff. Like I love how it all comes together. And one of the things we discovered, and it fit perfect into learning, and it's an acronym, POPI, like Popeye.
Okay. Person of Positive Influence. All right. Like it.
One of the first characteristics we understood was people of positive influence are purposeful. They are purposeful in the actions they take. They're purposeful in their morning routine. They're purposeful in how they communicate. They're purposeful in like literally every aspect of their life. They're purposeful. And so what I understood about people who are in business is those who are purposeful are truly making an impact.
Love that.
Yeah.
So let me just ask. So how do you find your purpose? A different book?
Yeah, it's a different book. You know what's fascinating? When we started asking people about how they kind of found their purpose, what's interesting, this is going to go a little bit against people like, really? But this is what we discovered is people like stumbled into it many times.
Yeah.
That was me.
That was me.
That was me.
That was a good mic drop.
Yeah.
And you hit the table.
Yeah. It's almost like the more they looked, the more they were like, I got to find, it's almost like how people would find relationships when they're like out on, I'm looking, and then all of a sudden
when
they
you
stop.
least expect it.
That was my first year in financial services when I stumbled into my purpose. So I was going around networking, doing all these different BNI groups and this and that and all this stuff to just try to get business.
Yeah.
Right? And then I bumped into this job networking group, right? And I saw how depressed, anxious, fearful. Totally. I saw the hopelessness in this group, and I saw there's this low energy, and I knew I needed to. I was the person to raise that energy up and to lift these people up.
You just knew. You felt it.
No,
it was
I'm
an energy
serious.
field.
Answer to the call. I talked about
100%. But like, if you would have told me then, like, job networking, that's your purpose. What?
Yeah.
You know? But I just fell into it.
What about you?
Well, so yeah, and one other thing I want to add to that, and it is the same for me, is that not only did they sort of stumble into it, but it was literally them 5 to 10 years ago. Like that was the thing they also started to understand, is that it was them 5 to 10 years ago.
Mic drop.
That was another mic drop.
So
Nice.
so a year before I found that group,
Yeah.
I was so struggling. Like in financial services, every day you wake up unemployed.
Yeah.
Right? And you have to get someone to hire you. And I was in their shoes.
Yes.
And so that was the piece of it right there, because I identified with what they were going through. I'm like, I have to help these people.
Yeah, and for me, when I go back and I've told my story in my books and so many times that like when my wife and I have 5 children and our youngest 2 are twins, and I was starting a new business and I had no money, and it was this day where we couldn't buy diapers, and I had $27 in my bank account,
Yep.
right? But then I figured out some formulas of success in business, and then I started to implement those and saw fast success. So now, who are my books written to? Who I go out and serve? The people I'm passionate about, because I never want to feel like I did when we had $27 and we couldn't buy groceries.
I
So
just
now,
got chills. Wow.
Yeah, so I'm now 5 to 10 years ahead of that, and so that's who I look back and help.
Oh my
I
gosh.
love that.
Right?
That's so beautiful. I guess with my story, I can just echo that back. Is I was in school and a TV reporter's kid, so I wanted to grow up and be my dad, and I'm going to be
Yeah.
on camera. And I went to start read teleprompter, and there was all eyes on me. You're the TV reporter's kid. You know how to do.
Right.
And I just would freeze and get so self-conscious, and I couldn't do it. I would take my tapes. Back then we had tapes, and I would go cry and edit the shit out of them. Can we
Yeah.
say shit out of this?
Nah, you're good.
And I would look like a rock star
Yeah.
and email them to dad. And he'd be like, Sarah, you're so great. But I fell in love with the editing and the behind the scenes. Fast forward now, a decade later, clients are very nervous, very self-conscious. And I tell them, hey, you don't need to be the
Yeah.
rock star every time. You can edit. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Or just be you.
Right.
But to be able to have that boost of confidence. And I go back to how I felt.
Totally.
Being so all eyes are on me, and can I do this? Can I do this? And we have that sense of fear. But, even people watching us today, it's like, oh my gosh, you're on stage and you guys have shows, and how do I do that? You can do it.
So imposter syndrome, you're helping people really break through that. Like, am I good enough to do this?
Yes,
Right?
yes.
I love that. I love
Yes.
that.
By the way, the only people that don't have imposter syndrome is the imposter.
Oh, hold up.
Because think about it.
Woo, mic drop.
They're like, I'm not an imposter. Like they walk around, but they are an imposter.
Wow.
And everyone has it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think the reason why you can speak to people coming from where you are and why you'll connect with them and why I can get on stage and tell these, and I've had a few people come like, man, I can feel your passion. I can feel your energy and your purpose around, because it's me. It's not made up. I was there 10 years ago, 7 years ago. Like I know exactly what it is. So when I'm speaking from my perspective to the right audience, they all of a sudden go, that's me.
That's me.
Yeah, connectivity. And that's also something you talk a lot about is
Yeah.
commonality, connectivity.
Yeah.
Because you're like a networking guru. You got your company, Master Networks. You're a Jedi, man.
Yes.
You're a freaking networking Jedi.
I can't wait to go home and say, hun, you're married
Yeah.
to a guru.
Yeah. I'm just a Padawan. I'm like, I'm just
That's
I'm trying to learn.
That's going to go over so well. Yeah, the thing is, like, people network, but very few connect. And so, yes, we have a networking organization, but we teach people how to connect. And I developed the bond method to do that. And really simple, the bond method is you build on a common interest, whatever that might be, right? You and I just did that. I walked up and I introduced myself. We talked and I said, hey, I've been to your studio before. It's just natural. Like, I'm going to build on whatever we can in common instantly. And then you go to occupation exploration, which is tell me about what you do. Why do you do it? How did you get started, right? It's that, and this is for business primarily. And then N is needs discovery. What are the needs you have? What are the needs you have? And D is develop an opportunity. That opportunity may be for us to do business, but it may be for like, let me connect you, Sarah. Like, and now all of a sudden you still see me as valuable because you're like, that was the need I had. And
Absolutely.
you filled it, even though we didn't do any business. And I think, anyway, that's the high level of bond, and it served me well for years.
It's also kind of like the go-giver mentality. So when
Correct.
you give, and you're saying, "Hey, I can connect you with this person who can help you," so you're giving, like it's the law of reciprocity. They want to figure out what can I do for you?
Right.
I was meeting with Rich Cardona this morning. I bumped into him, and he was like, "Hey, man, if there's any," like he was giving, and I'm like, "Dude, this guy, he was just hooking me up," and I'm like, dude, what can I do for you? Like, whatever you need, man, I got you.
Yeah.
Like, because he was just giving.
100%.
I loved it.
And look, we can all sit here and say we've all been to those lunches, those networking events, those events like these, where you meet somebody and you leave and you're like, I don't even know if they know my name. But I heard I know everything about them. So just think about that. If you walk away from that, that's how you feel. I sometimes have to go, have I done that? Like, do I do that? I need to make sure they leave going, man, that guy really had an interest in me. And I promise you, it does circle back. People, especially with social media, they'll look you up. They'll make a nice comment. They'll connect with you. You don't have to swing for the fences on the first try.
On our last conference, I made a note of this because I was so busy, tearing up, putting up, tearing down, doing everything, and that I was like not present.
Yes.
With the people I invited out. So I've got my own network coming out, and I'm like, I can't do that. That's worse. That's like what a awful way to make an impression, because I'm not able to pay attention and to really focus and give them their attention. Like, that's what they came for.
Right.
They came to meet me and to get out and anyway, so I felt awful after that event. I'm like, okay, I got to hire some folks to get this thing done, put together the right way.
Yeah. Well, that's leverage.
Yeah.
And that's impactful in business for sure.
Well, you have an amazing team that does that.
Yeah. We have an awesome team, and we push them. We're purposeful in everything we do as much as we can be. We're optimistic. That's the second one. We're optimistic about our future. We're optimistic about what we want to do and the print we want to leave on the world. The other P is persistent. So we're super persistent, and we'll turn a loss into a lesson, and we'll just push through. And then the last is inspiring. Our goal is to leave people inspired every time they meet us versus that was kind of draining. And so if we can do that as a company around our core values and the things that we're doing, then, man, it's not hard for me to find good people, because all I have to do is put that out in the world, and people have come up to us at events and other things like, do you have any job openings? We don't hurt for finding people, which is...
Take us back to the very beginning. So for those of us that are listening, and you're going to make an incredible impact, just like the people behind the microphones today. But who were you when you were, trying to make that first, you were saying you had how much in the bank account? $27?
Yeah.
$27 in the bank account. Now
5
you have
kids.
a team.
Yeah.
So what did that look like as you were building the momentum and adding the team from there? So for those of us that are sitting here and like, hey, someday I want to have a team, someday I want to scale, but I need to get started today. Okay, I'm starting today, and I'm starting a YouTube channel, and I've got this business, and now I've got my mission and my content. What did that look like? And give us like an exact year. Like, what year did that start? And here we are in 2022.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell two really quick things. One is, I think sometimes we see people and we like, oh, I want to be like, they're where I want to be, which is great. But you got to understand, every expert was a beginner at first.
Yes.
And I have failed so many times.
Let's go.
In fact, I tell this story like hiring an assistant. I hired my first assistant because a coach told me I needed to. She was a client, liked her. She was great. She loved the business. Anyway, I hired her. A couple months later, I'm at an event, networking event, and they said, hey, did you know that administrative assistant's day is like in 3 weeks? Like, I had no idea that even was a day, right? Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry, I got you covered. We do gifts. We'll send it. Okay. Like, that's how clueless I was about what I was doing in business, right? But every Sunday night, I would go, oh my gosh, the pit in my stomach, because I know Monday my new job is to figure out something for her to do, because I have no systems, no process, nothing. And so I go in Monday, and I was like, I got to let this girl go. Like, I just cannot do this. Like, I'm terrible. And it's not me, or it's not you, it's me, totally me. It's not like... Anyway, and so she's packing up her box, crying, and I'm like, I feel like the worst person in the world. And then there's a knock at the door, and I open it up, and it's like this gift basket. Like, dude, I fired her on administrative assistant.
No. Oh, that's a mic drop.
Well, with that being said, like, think about how much time and stress I do. I feel for you, where it was like that was a full-time job, thinking of things for her to do. Right. When then you couldn't do what you needed to do.
Right.
So, oh man, of all the days though.
I know. It's like, here's your parting gift as you walk out the door.
Womp, womp,
yeah,
womp.
exactly. So I only share that because I think people see how we're growing all these businesses, and like they see a lot of success, but like we have failed so many times.
Absolutely.
I have messed up so many times. But I think the thing is like in that, so to go back to your point, I want to say probably in like 2012, I realized that there was people way smarter than me. That wasn't that great of an epiphany, but there was a lot of people smarter than me who just do a really good job, and I needed to find out how to bring them on board. And you know what's interesting? I have people with me who've been with me since 2012, who when we started, I had a young lady who, she was working at the college making over $100,000 a year. And she came and she said, hey, I'd like to work with you. I love the mission you're on. I said, okay. She's like, make me an offer. I'm like 23 grand for the year. and she left and came to work with us.
Wow.
Now she makes more than that now, but she took the risk and the journey with us because I was able to, one other thing for Person of Impact, their message. I was able to cast and transfer a vision in my message of where we were going to go. And she's like, that's the train I want to be on.
And take us back to that. What was the message and vision that you were creating that she left what she was doing to jump on board? And here you are.
And mind you, this was like 12 months after that $27. Like, it wasn't like I was on the path. What I said is I have a vision that I know in this country, there are people like me who every night, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, they sit at a table and they go, I don't know if we can keep the lights on. I don't know if we can pay rent. I don't know if we can make payroll. And what I realized is they weren't one tactic away, they were one relationship away from changing their future. And I was going to create a platform to help people do that and change the American economy.
Let's go.
And how did you build that platform?
One person at a time, which is crazy. And you've heard me say this before. What I realized one day, I'm a faith-based person. I realized one day, I was like, man, Jesus created a movement, and he only needed 12.
You don't need a million followers.
I might need 15 or 18.
Look at all this microphones.
You don't need a million followers. You just need 12.
I don't need a million. And I have built this massive organization with like 16 original people.
I love that. I love that. So was it difficult to find the right people?
Yes.
Yes. How difficult?
I'll tell you why it was difficult, because I wasn't clear on my values. As soon as I became clear on my values, they became, again, this is in our book, Impact, the values are the guardrails. I know what opportunity to say yes to, what people to say yes to, and what to say no to. Now, because they either fit my values or they don't. And a really quick tip for those listening on how, because everyone's like, oh, I get it, values. I did too. I was like, that's something you put on your wall.
Mission statement.
Yeah, you have a poster on. No. These are our guiding, like literally our guiding principles every single day. And here's a really quick tip to figure out how to create your core values.
Yes.
Reverse engineer what pisses you off.
Oh.
Wow.
That's good.
What
I got all the mics. Wait, hold on. I left them all.
Yeah, so I have business ones and I have some personal ones, right? So loyalty is one of my personal ones. And I discovered it was because I had somebody help me facilitate this, and they started asking me questions, and I realized I've had people lie to me, steal from me, et cetera. And I went, man, like, I am mad just thinking about that. Like, I'm triggered. I know it's but I'm like triggered. And I went, whoa, why am I triggered? They violated a value. So I just reversed that back and went, loyalty is my value, which is actually our family values.
How do you know if someone's going to be loyal? How do you know if somebody's not going to be loyal?
You don't. But here's the thing. Because you can't. Even in all of our values. And in fact, nobody ever is as a definite. Even the greatest people I have right now in my organization, it's like this with our values all the time. Me too. Right? Because you're human, you make decisions, you do different things. And so all we're doing is we kind of have a grading system to that value, and we have a certain threshold. If you drop below, we're giving you a chance to fix it. And if you don't, guess what? We have another conversation. And then the third time, if we're meeting for that conversation, it's because you're packing up your box. And guess what happened? In the last 2 years where we got really clear on that, I've not fired a single person.
I love that.
People have quit, but I have not fired in the last 2 years.
So you got a lot of things that you're working on right now. You got a new book. You're going on tour. You got what are some things that you're working on, and what else you got?
So yeah, we've got a book. We've got some new workshops, mastermind groups we're doing. I've got a couple businesses that I've just recently purchased. Some boards I've been asked to sit on. I don't know if I'm gonna do all of those yet. And aside from that, I created a high-level coaching group and these were just people I wanted to hang out with and learn from them, kind of pitch and catch, because it's hard to say this, and this is gonna sound super arrogant. I don't mean it to, but sometimes I realize one day I'm always in the front of the room. And I just needed a group where I could sit at the table and be like, no, you get up and I want to learn from you.
I love that.
And so I kept looking for that group, and then I realized, why don't I just create it? And so I just invited some of my friends who are super successful, and we went out to Park City, Utah, and rented a big house, and we did like 2.5 days masterminding together, and man, it was so impactful.
You guys, do you have a podcast?
Yeah.
You guys, what is it? Drop it.
Connect, Share, Prosper. We paused it. And that's
bring it back.
I know. It's time
I
to
need to listen. We want to dig into what you guys are talking about.
I feel it because, listen, he's like a master Jedi, and I feel like just a little Padawan. I'm just learning from you. Seriously, I'm soaking it up like a sponge. And I want to know, how I can help you and serve you in some of your mission, man. I asked you that before. Like, really, I want to connect with you, and I want to be able to. I feel there's so much synergy. So if there's anything I can do for you, man, seriously, just
likewise.
Just holler at me for real.
Yeah, man, I think it's just supporting the cause. Like,
what do you need? How about that? What are some things that would take you to that next level?
Yeah.
You got to promote the mission.
Yeah, and so Master Networks is our company.
Okay.
Right? And that's serving entrepreneurs. I believe entrepreneurs are the backbone of this country.
Hell yeah. Let's go.
You know, I say some things sometimes and people are like, wow, it sounds very political. It's not. It's principled. I have very principled views about where I think entrepreneurs fit in the world, and I'll advocate and defend for them all day. And
they're the problem solvers.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll see today. I'm actually talking about it today. One of the things I think in the future is evolving technology versus slow-moving government. And the entrepreneurs will solve the problem. And so what I'm asking for is people who are listening who are anywhere in the U.S. where they want to help us expand the network, man, come join it. And it's just an amazing movement.
Well, let's join the movement. Guys, I love it. I think, again, I don't even have any mics. Like, I got an empty bowl over here. No, for
I
real.
almost grabbed something and threw it and realized it was
Here,
my
I'm just
phone.
going to put that right there. Okay. Chaz, this is an amazing event. We appreciate you having us here, and I love everything you're doing. So let's connect offline and dive into this thing, man. Let's carry this to the next level.
Well, keep spreading the message you're doing it because people need it.
What's the best way for the audience to connect with you?
Just go on social media, Chaz Wilson or Master Networks. You'll find me.
Love it. Guys, that's the show. It's all about who you know and cash flow. Thanks for listening to the Who You Know Show podcast. My name is Trevor Houston, and if you've enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing wherever you listen and leave us a positive review to help us keep the mics on in the studio. Until next week, that's the show. It's all about who you know.